So it all started with an idea that honestly seemed to spring straight from a late-night negotiation playbook. But this time it wasn't about real estate. This was about people. The Trump administration, in a move that really sent shockwaves across continents, began what was described as an intense diplomatic campaign. The goal, well, it was to pressure countries, many of them in Africa, to accept deportees. But here's the thing, these weren't just their own citizens being returned. The deals being pushed involved taking in migrants from third countries, including prisoners from places like Venezuela. The administration dangled threats like tariffs. Before we even get to individual countries, we really have to talk about the continental response. The African Union, the AU, representing all 55 member states of Africa, didn't stay silent. And honestly, it wasn't just a quiet diplomatic note, it was a clear and public statement of disapproval. The organization saw the ban not as some targeted security measure, but as a broad, discriminatory policy. In a carefully worded but firm statement, the African Union Commission expressed its deep concern and called upon the U.S. administration to reconsider its approach. More importantly, it urged the U.S. to engage in constructive dialogue with the countries affected. This unified voice framed the issue not as a series of isolated disputes but as a fundamental disagreement between an entire continent and a superpower. The AU's stance effectively provided political cover for individual member states to stand firm. It set the tone for the rejections that would follow, transforming individual acts of defiance into a symphony of continental resistance. The AU's statement was the opening note, in a powerful chorus that declared Africa was not for sale, and its dignity was not negotiable. An affront to one was increasingly seen as an affront to all. The Trump administration's travel ban, announced on June 9th, felt like a door slamming shut. It wasn't just a policy, it was a message. Citizens from 6 African nations, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Somalia. They were suddenly barred from traveling to the United States. The official justification was a mix of security concerns, citing terrorism risks and visa overstays. For the people of these countries, though, it felt like a collective punishment, ignoring education, business, and family ties. It was a glaring contradiction. When the Trump administration came knocking on Nigeria's door, they weren't met with a polite maybe. They were met with a firm, unequivocal no. As Nigeria's foreign minister Yusuf Tuggar would later put it, many African nations have enough problems of our own. Nigeria, a regional powerhouse, was in no position to take on more. Grappling with security, economic and social challenges, it will be difficult for a country like Nigeria to accept Venezuelan prisoners into Nigeria. We have enough problems of our own. This wasn't just a diplomatic rejection, it was a statement of national reality and self-respect. Nigeria's stance became one of the most high-profile rejections of the deportation campaign. As a key U.S. partner on many fronts, its refusal carried significant weight. By refusing, Nigeria was asserting its place as a sovereign nation that defines its own priorities, refusing to participate in what it saw as an organized atrocity. From environmental devastation in the Niger Delta to civic unrest, Nigeria was not in a position to accept more. It was a masterclass in putting your own people first. The story of South Africa's rejection is, well, one filled with irony. For years, certain white South African lobby groups like AfriForum had been making a case to Republicans in the United States. President Trump himself had amplified claims about persecution, and the idea of offering refuge to white South Africans seemed logical from that perspective. But then, something unexpected happened. The offer was rejected. Callie Kryl, CEO of AfriForum, stated it categorically. "We don't want to move elsewhere." Representatives from Orania echoed the sentiment. Afrikaners do not want to be refugees. We love and are committed to our homeland. The narrative of a desperate group eager to flee suddenly crumbled, replaced by a declaration of fierce attachment to their country. These groups weren't seeking escape, they were seeking leverage within South Africa. Their no was a powerful statement. Their fight was for their place within Africa, not outside it. It undercut the premise of the administration's concern, and showed homeland bonds beat the lure of an American lifeboat. In the small landlocked kingdom of Eswatini, the news landed like a bombshell. It wasn't just a rumor. The government confirmed deportees from the United States were already here being held in its prisons. A US DHS spokesperson called them depraved monsters. Outrage erupted across the nation. People felt their country was being used without consent. Wandile Dludlu declared, "The US government sees us as a criminal dump site and undermines Mswati." Their sovereignty had been trampled on. Lack of transparency about secret deals fueled anger and suspicion. Public outcry served as a powerful check on foreign pressure. A grassroots rejection that became a cautionary tale for the region. The Trump administration's diplomatic campaign cast a wide net. Among the countries reportedly approached were Libya and Benin. Libya, fractured by civil war and political instability, publicly denied coordinating with the U.S. Both the UN-backed West and the military-controlled East denied coordination, a rare point of agreement. Meanwhile, Benin was reportedly approached and declined. Whether a nation in civil war or a relatively stable republic, both said no. The proposals were viewed as violations of sovereignty and widely seen as exploitative. Public refusals from powerhouses made such deals politically untenable for smaller states. While many rejections were loud and public, others were quieter, delivered through alliances and strategy. Ethiopia, a major power in the Horn, was notably absent from a selective White House summit. The common thread among many excluded nations was close ties to BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China. Brazil, Russia, India, China. By aligning with BRICS, nations like Ethiopia signaled they were forging independent foreign policies and diversifying partnerships. Ethiopia's refusal was often implicit, actions and allegiances that made them less susceptible to American pressure. National pride and strategic interest were intertwined. Their future would not be dictated by Washington's domestic agenda. This quiet but firm declaration reflected a multipolar world. The series of rejections from these 13 African countries and the African Union was more than just diplomatic defeats. It was a landmark moment for the continent, a collective stand for national pride, sovereignty, and refusal to repeat the painful history of exploitation. For centuries, Africa was subject to foreign whims. This felt like a modern iteration of that colonial dynamic, and leaders refused. Young activists with phones, Pan-African rallies, and social media amplified a unified refusal. The no to Trump was not just a rejection of one policy, but an affirmation of a new era. Africa telling the world it is an active author of its own destiny. A rising continent leveraging economic importance, a young workforce, and strategic alliances to demand a more equitable place in the global order. The untold truth is that Africa did not just say no, it stood up. What this means for the future is still being written. But one thing is clear: respect and partnership, not patronage, will shape the next chapter.